Paranormal Radio Show. Ashley Hood was going to be our guest tonight, but she had to cancel because she's having emergency surgery. Our prayers go out to her. I'm sure she's going to be okay. Just good thoughts. Just send good thoughts, okay? Now, one more thing I want to remind you about is I keep saying this on every show, the DeadCon in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Eric Verner, the guy that's putting it on, just told me to tell you guys, go to the show clicks page that was posted 2 days ago, and you get a 25% discount. You can't beat that, right? Anyway, our thoughts and prayers go out to her, and I hope you enjoy the show from December with Ashley Hood.
The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual hosts and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Dead Zone WDZRDB Worldwide. Welcome to the Dead Zone Paranormal Radio Show.
Hey, December 29th, welcome back to the Dead Zone. Hope you all had a great Christmas. Tonight we've got Ashley Hood. She's actually a Terre Haute native around here, so she's right here by the studio. She does, well, first of all, she's an author. She got a brand new book, Haunted Terre Haute. Awesome. And she does tours here in Terre Haute of the different ghostly places that we have around here, and we do have a few. So stick around for that, and we'll be right back.
Millions of people are affected by the Para-X bug.
I realize that it is something that will stay with me for the rest of my life and long into the afterlife as well.
If you have the Para-X bug, there is hope.
With a nightly visit to the Para-X website and intensive past life regression therapy, I can control it.
Even with the Para-X bug, I can still lead an active life of radio show hosting, paranormal investigating, evidence checking, attending conferences, book writing, keeping up with the latest technology, and still keep my 40-hour-a-week day job.
If you think that you have the Para-X bug or know someone who might, visit para-x.com and remember, you are not alone.
I am not alone.
I
am not alone.
The Para-X bug may cause the urge to chase shadow people, visit exotic haunted locations, adopt a pugwudgie, or spend all of your time trying to figure out the laws and principles of paranormal investigation. Listening to Para-X may increase these effects.
Sudden visions of full-body apparitions, or feeling the covers being pulled off you in the middle of the night by unseen hands, may also be signs of exposure to the Para-X bug.
The use of Para-X may be habit-forming, and an overwhelming desire to provoke spirits may be a serious side effect. If these symptoms last more than 4 hours, you should quickly consult a trusted witch and have her cast a "What the hell are you thinking?" spell on you. If symptoms persist, please contact the Para-X Radio Network Homeland Security Team for further instructions.
The Para-X bug may cause urges for late-night speaking with spirits and ghosts. Listening to Para-X may increase these effects. Overwhelming desire to try provoking a spirit may be a serious side effect. Those with Para-X bug effects lasting more than 4 hours should consult Para-X or see a professional. Sudden outbursts at the mention of orbs may be a sign of exposure to the Para-X bug. Use of Para-X may be habit-forming. Use caution when engaging in Para-X chat.
Your source for everything paranormal, Para-X.
Good evening. I am Sammy Terry, and you're listening to the Dead Zone.
Hey, welcome back to the Dead Zone. We have Ashley right here.
Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing okay, actually. I'm doing okay. I'm here by myself again because no one wants to come play, because it's the holidays, so I'm stuck by myself. Yeah. But Ashley Hood, author, tour guide, right here in Terre Haute, Indiana, the original Sin City. How cool is that?
Yes, the very original Sun City. We had all kinds of good things that used to go on back in the day.
Oh, and they probably still do in some places. I'm just gonna
Yeah,
say.
I try to avoid those locations.
Yeah,
if
I'm
it
just
does
gonna say.
happen.
I'm just gonna say. Before we get into that, let me ask you this. I know you are a paranormal investigator, or a paranormal investigator, or ghost hunter, or whatever you want to call it. You know, like we are. What got you started?
So my mom used to take me and my friends out when we were kind of pre-teens, teenagers, and she'd take us out to local cemeteries at night. And I think part of it was because she was interested in the paranormal, and also part of it was like, who doesn't want to be the parent who's like scaring the kids?
Right.
She would take us out there with like the 110 camera, basically just our naked eye, and see what we could see out in these cemeteries. And then as we got older, then she started actually driving us around to like places that she had heard stories from as a teenager. So we used to go to this place that she called Pig's Eye in Clay County, which to this day I'm pretty sure was something like her and her friends had made up in high school.
I was going to say, I live in Clay County. I've never heard of that one. That's okay.
Right. Pretty sure that was like a high school rumor, but it was a great opportunity for my mom to really freak us out. So she would take us out there, and then it kind of just grew from there. And then, of course, you know, when paranormal TV became a thing, and you had ghost hunters, and you had ghost adventures, me and my mom would just watch it like crazy, and always kind of joke about how, you know, one day we're going to do this. And
right.
So now I do this. So.
Right. And that was what? Maybe.
Oh God.
Well, man, you were what at that time? Maybe 16?
Oh, probably, yeah, 13, 14, 15, 16, somewhere in that area, yeah. With 110 cameras, definitely. So.
Yeah. Well, that's very cool. So, that being said, well, I don't know. I don't know if I want to get you to talk about this right now or not, but yeah, why not? Of the local legends you have been to, which one actually was substantial to you, and which ones were like, come on, like you just said with the Pig's Eye?
Yeah, Pig's Eye was definitely one. That one, you know, looking back on it now, I'm like, oh, like she so hosed us.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
But at the time, it was like, hey, you know, that's really scary. And then, and another one that I guess wasn't so, I don't know, people might consider it to be haunted, but she used to take us out to Rural Hill Cemetery, and I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
I say again?
Actually, one of my...
Rural Hill?
Rural Hill, Rural. So,
No.
Rural Hill Cemetery. And it's actually out on, State Road 42 here, kind of on the Vigo clay line. And she used to take us out there because there's always these stories about this one gravestone out there. And you go and you read the incantation 3 times, and then weird stuff is supposed to happen, or you're supposed to die. Well, that tombstone has actually become known as Alicia's grave. And
Okay.
used to be a lot of...
Yeah, that I've heard of, Alicia's grave. That I've heard that from locals around here. Yeah.
Very popular spot for teenagers to kind of go out and freak themselves out. And we never had anything happen out there. And I think kind of what freaks people out is it's a cemetery that basically has a 1 lane in and out.
Right.
With swamps on either side of it.
Right.
And then it's up in a clearing in the woods. So, like, I'm not all too sure that location is that haunted.
Yeah.
But it's certainly, if you want to go see a pretty location and, like, a pretty cemetery, like, I think it would be awesome for that. But
yes.
I don't think there's much ghostly activity out
right,
there.
But the atmosphere itself lends to it, and especially if you're in that frame of mind, and
It absolutely does, yeah. And, of course, there was always the old story, too. Well, they built the cemetery into a hill, and some of the coffins were kind of sticking out the hill due to erosion. I can say I've never seen that, but again, I could see why that might freak you out.
Yeah. Oh, there's plenty. As far as at rural cemeteries around here, you know, I live in Clay County too, and there are a few that are just off the beaten path and are kind of creepy, but they're really beautiful, but they're really creepy.
They're gorgeous.
Yeah.
Hauntingly beautiful location.
Yes. Yeah. And I get that. But I've never heard of that though. I'll have to look that up. That's amazing. Very cool.
You'll have to check it out. And I do warn people who might want to be interested in going out there that now, because of some of the teenagers going out there over the years and probably doing some vandalism, they're only open certain days like holidays. Memorial Day or Labor Day are excellent days to get out there because usually the gate is open. You can get into the cemetery and you can kind of check it out for yourself. So definitely check it out. If anybody hears anything or has any experiences, I'd love to hear it.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, now we've talked about this before, I think it's actually illegal to be in a cemetery or a graveyard after dark.
I've heard that, yes, because a lot of places don't want you to trespass because they're afraid of the vandalism. I know that over in Bloomington at Step Cemetery, which, of course, isn't local, but if we're talking about places in Indiana that are super haunted, like Step Cemetery is a must-go-to. It's in the Morgan Monroe Forest, and I've had several experiences out there of just different kind of crazy stuff going on. We've heard a lot of people say there's a mother out there that mourns her son, Baby Lester, and there's actually a grave there at Step Cemetery that says Baby Lester. And we were out there one evening, and we heard what sounded like the crying of a mother, like, or a woman. And so we looked all around to see where the sound was coming from, and we couldn't find anything. So that's one of my, I think, favorite places to visit.
And that's in Illinois.
Yeah, that's in Indiana. It's in Bloomington, Indiana.
Oh, Bloomington, Indiana.
Monroe, Morgan. Yeah.
Okay. I thought you said Illinois.
And
I'm
it's
sorry.
a really cool spot. I hope I didn't say Illinois. If I did, I meant Indiana. So
that's
barking in the background.
That's not 13 steps, right?
No, actually, 100 Steps Cemetery, 100 Steps,
100 Steps,
actually right around the corner from me.
Yeah.
That's a cemetery I've been going to since I was a little kid. I can tell you stories about weird stuff going on in that cemetery. I can tell you stories about on-purpose freaking out friends in that cemetery.
Oh, yeah. That's a good time, yeah. Yeah, always a good time.
Yeah. Yeah, freak your friends out, tell them the story, take them out there, and then watch them turn, like, white and run. It's a really good place for that.
Yeah. Now, I think there's a gate around it now. You can't, like every place else now, because of all the vandalism and people disrespecting, the property. They've put up gates, and you just can't get in there.
No, you can't. Oh, can I ask you to hold on for 2 seconds?
Absolutely.
Again? We're gonna have to start again.
No problem. It's okay.
Hello, this is Christopher St. Ruth, and you're listening to The Dead Zone.
Yeah, we've ran into that problem too. I mean, it's a shame that people have made it that way. I mean, we like to go in and do our investigation. It's not disrespectful in my mind, in our minds. But because of the way people have treated, it's sad. It really is. It
really is, because you would think that people would go in there with some respect. I mean, for all they know, they could have loved ones buried in that location. And
absolutely.
It always breaks my heart when you go out to do a ghost hunt, particularly in the really old cemeteries. Again, kind of like Rural Hill or Step Cemetery out in Bloomington, very, very old cemeteries.
Yeah.
And then you go out there and you think, maybe that's nature that knocked over the stone. And then you start looking around and you're like, nature didn't knock over 15 tombstones.
Right. And didn't break off the heads and arms of the different, you're right, yeah.
Well, and when you go out to, I can't think of the name of the cemetery, it's out in Greencastle. But Pearl Bryan is buried there. And, of course, I'm sure you're familiar with Bobby Mackey's in Kentucky.
Yeah.
Well, of course, Pearl was the victim of that murder there.
And she's buried there? I didn't know that. No.
Yeah. I think it's called Forest Lawn. I might be wrong. Or Park Lawn, Forest Lawn. Some, very pretty kind of, visions of beautiful green acreage kind of name for the cemetery, but she's buried out there. The unfortunate thing about it is, though, because her death was so well known, people have actually gone out there over the years and kind of picked away at the tombstone, take pieces of it.
God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
so basically,
is
you
there...
want to find pearls...
Go right up. Well, I was going to say, is that really a substantiated, is that a proven fact that this happened to that woman there? I mean, I've watched all the shows, Ghost Adventures and all this kind of whatever. It's TV. Great, whatever. Is that a real substantiated fact that really happened there? It
is. What we do know from like what I've researched and kind of looked into it, she of course fell in love with that dentist, became pregnant. They tried several different ways to alleviate her, if you will, of the child. Yeah. None of which worked. Eventually they ended up
so they wound up so they wound up killing her and
And when they beheaded her, of course, they throw the head down there in the well. They take her body, and by all accounts, she was found, I guess the area she was found in is now a Dollar General, and I'm guessing it was in Kentucky. But the only reason that we know that it happened is because when that body was found, they, of course, were going to have problems identifying it because it didn't have a head.
Yeah.
So she was from a really well-to-do family in this area, and so she had these really fancy shoes. And they were able to basically do like early detective work and figure out that, those shoes came from a cobbler in this part of Indiana. And then they were able to say, well, the only person who fits those shoes is Pearl Bryan. And from there, they were able to ID the body that way. So.
Wow. See, I did not know that. I mean, I
very
know.
Sad story.
Yeah, everyone knows the story about Bobby Mackey's and that kind of thing. But, I didn't know there was a real police file you could go check up on.
Yeah, I did a little bit of research on it because we wanted to go out and visit the tombstone one day. Obviously, another cemetery that has fencing around it. You're not going to be able to get in there after dark, but we wanted to go out there one day anyway, just kind of see if she was really out there. And so we did our research, found out that, she is out there, but because of the destruction to that tombstone, and then granted, I haven't been out there now for probably 3 or 4 years, so I mean, they could have put in a new tombstone, but at the time that we were out there, people had destroyed it so bad that basically you had to find the Bryan family plot, and then once you found the Bryan family plot, you basically just had to look for basically what was just a hunk of concrete.
Yeah, the remains of it, was left of it. Yeah. Why do people do that? I don't get it, It's just...
here's the thing, being somebody who believes in ghosts, and you probably agree, this as well, like, why are you going to chance getting yourself haunted? Like, why are you going to go take something from somebody?
Oh, yeah, I agree 100%. Yeah, you don't go to a location where, you may or may not believe is haunted. You don't take something from there to your home.
It's like I had a few friends, and we're no longer friends, these friends of mine and myself, but these two girls decided, and I hope the people at the Bell Witch Cave don't listen to this, but we went to see the
Okay.
we went to see the Bell Witch Cave because obviously, one of the most haunted and historical places that you can go to in this area, and my friends decided to take rocks. You don't take rocks from the Bell Witch. You just don't. And needless to say, perhaps they haven't had the greatest last few years since doing that. And what I later found out was that when you take rocks from the Bell Witch, you better return them.
Yes.
Because a lot of people have taken rocks and then sent them back through the mail because their life just turned, just took such a terrible turn, and the only thing that they could equate it to was, it must be those rocks we took. So, again, I had 2 friends that did that. I was like, A, that's disrespectful. B, I'm never going to a haunted location with you again. And C, like, if something happens to you, you brought it on yourself.
Right. And, we've had a friend, we had probably, I don't know, I'm going to say maybe a mutual friend that did something like that like 3 years ago. At a place I won't say, and after he did that, everything went to crap. Really, guy. I mean,
Right.
immediately on the way back from the location, it went to crap. You know what I mean? And
Yeah, see, that was the thing with these two girls, too. Immediately, we get in the car, and weird stuff starts to happen.
Yeah.
Of course, they don't tell me until we're halfway back to Indiana that they've taken these rocks. Otherwise, I would have been like, we need to turn this car around, and you need to go apologize to the owners of the Bell Witch Cave, and probably the Bell Witch herself.
right. And the thing is, not only, you know, the crew, other people told this person, send it back. You have to send. Wouldn't do it. And okay, and as far as I know, he's still in the same situation.
Right, you basically just invited, like, bad juju onto your home by doing something like that. You don't take from the spirits. I mean, you just don't.
Right. Okay, that being said,
Horrible idea.
let's move from outside of Terre Haute to Terre Haute. What,
Yes.
in your opinion, and your book, and she does have a book, and it's awesome, Haunted Terre Haute.
Well, thank you.
What, in your opinion, is the most haunted place in Terre Haute, Indiana?
Oh, gosh. I definitely think, I don't know, that's a toss-up.
Okay,
in
wait.
doing
Okay,
research-
let me rephrase that. What is the most haunted place in Terre Haute, Indiana, that isn't a cemetery, like Sheets, or not Sheets? Oh my gosh,
Heinel and Sheets, yeah. Because see, when you said that, I immediately thought Highland Lawn.
Highland,
I was like,
yeah,
but
yeah,
everybody knows about Highland Lawn.
yeah.
I think from doing the research for my book, one of my favorite haunted locations in Terre Haute is definitely the Glen Home, which used to be the home for, Vigo County dependent children, basically.
Right.
And recently, I'm sure you've probably seen on the news in the last year or so that some stuff has come to light about how the children were treated there, and kind of just some very dark history associated with that location.
Well, I think that's
And
pretty much the norm for every place back then with children. I think they were treated very poorly. Yeah.
Just mistreated and horrible things done. So as far as, haunted locations in Terre Haute, like the Glen Home is definitely number one on my list. I mean, they have the building, the home was originally erected in 1903.
Right.
Now, none of those dormitories are still there. It's just the administration building and the burned out remains of the old boiler.
Right.
And it now belongs to a fraternity. And since the fraternity brothers got it in the 80s, there have been constant, non-stop reports of paranormal activity.
Is that the old
administration?
Is that the old Pike? Is that the old Pike house? Not Pike.
It is.
Not Pike.
If you're driving on Highway 40, like Lost Creek Elementary, there's an overpass, and then there's Lost Creek Elementary. The Glen Home's going to be just east of that.
I know. Yeah,
so
I know. There was some place that a couple of years ago, someone had contacted us, RIP, to go investigate this place. It was run down. They said it was a fraternity home. I mean, it's just run down. It's nothing there anymore, really. Just a skeleton of a building. Is that what you're talking about?
No, there's actually still a fraternity there. Now, some of the buildings on campus or on this plot of land are kind of run down. The boiler room has since burned to the ground. They had a home, unfortunately, back in the day where they would segregate the African American children from the other children. That home has that dorm has since burned. Pretty structurally sound though, so you can still go out there and you can still walk around and see it, but it's been entirely overtaken by Mother Nature.
Oh yeah.
And then the old admin building from 1903. Where they have a lot of activity, and then there is also a couple of dorms on campus where they have some activity as well. One of them being, it's called the Owen Dormitory, and they actually have stories of a female student who was apparently, I don't know if she was murdered, if she died, like what happened to her, but supposedly she passed away while she was living in Owen, and students, fraternity brothers, have reported in the years since that they've run into her. There's also reports, one brother, I guess, came back from a break and decided he didn't want to move all of his stuff back into the main house, so he was just going to stay in Owen where they kind of use it, as storage for breaks and stuff.
Right.
And so he goes to stay in Owen. He's staying there. Everything's fine. He's going to sleep for the night. And he starts to hear movement in the hallway, which, I mean, when you're by yourself in an old dormitory, is probably not what you want to hear. So he gets up to check it out, and there's this little boy. And I guess, I don't know if he just expected it to be haunted. He'd heard the stories. But he immediately begins to talk to this little boy.
Oh.
And the little boy basically tells him, I was a former student at the Glen home. There's another boy out in the hallway, but he doesn't like to talk to people. He's not as friendly. And so he started doing research into Owen, and he found out that apparently, and I've not been able to validate this, I haven't been able to find any records, but according to his research, there were 2 boys that committed suicide by hanging themselves in that dormitory.
Oh.
And then there he is running into the spirits of 2 young boys. So, that's definitely a creepy place on that campus. And then there's also in the main house a ghost named Imogene. And she's been seen in windows and mirrors. She's has been attributed, they think, to causing different knocking sounds in the building. I guess one brother was just plagued by strange knocking all evening on one particular night, and he kept getting up and he kept going to look to see who might be there, and then he finally realized that the knocking was coming from this creepy little room under the steps.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's creepy.
Yeah. So needless to say, he went flying up the stairs, locked his bedroom door, and didn't come back down until the rest of the brothers showed up that night. So, and they've also had, they used to have a pool there when it was a home for dependent children, and, again, fraternity brothers and students on the property have heard the splashing of water. They've heard kids, sounds like they're having a great time, like they're having fun. It's been paved over and turned into a parking lot.
Yeah. Unfortunately, a lot of places have been, yeah. Unfortunately, a lot of places like that have been just demolished, and that's sad.
If it weren't for that fraternity, that's probably what would have happened to those grounds, I would imagine.
Right.
They got it in the 1980s, and I will tell you what, they have taken incredible care of that property. The administration building is pretty much in, the original form it would have been in, back in the day.
Yeah.
And they've taken incredible care of it. And they actually have a fire truck on site so that, God forbid, anything happens to any of those historical buildings, they can go ahead and kind of take care of it themselves until the actual fire brigade shows up.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. I keep racking my brain about the one I was talking to you about. Did I say Pike House?
Yeah, and then these are pikes that are out at the Glen home.
That must be it, because it keeps hitting me in the head. It's Pikes. Something keeps coming to me saying it's the Pikes. Okay,
well,
so
there is one dormitory out there, and I can't remember if it's Alden or Leach, but it is basically to the point that you can't even enter it anymore.
Okay, that might be it then, I guess. I don't know, but
yeah.
It just kept coming to me. It's like, it's Pikes, stupid.
Well, that's who they are.
Okay. Very cool. Wow.
So, yeah, I like the property.
Yeah. So, another one I'm going to ask you, and this is going to be kind of important because here in just a couple of days, what day? What is it? This is the 29th, right? So, pre-recording. The pubs here in town, and there's going to be a lot of people in a certain pub here in Terre Haute that may or may not know that there's a ghost or two in there. Which one do you think that is?
I know that Moggers and the Verve both have ghosts.
Right. Well,
definitely Moggers. If you want to have some spirits with your spirits, that would be my suggestion.
That's kind of the one I was thinking about. Yeah, it was. Moggers. It's such a it's a cool place. It's a great place. And I heard
they have at least 6 ghosts there.
At least 6. And see, I only heard of one that was down in the pit there. What do you call it?
There's kind of like down where they used to lager the beer.
Yeah.
Back when they used to. Yeah, he's down there, and then I've heard a lot of stories about Mr. Mogger himself. You see, he died on the property of heat stroke, and then they had his wake actually up in what's the tap room now.
Oh.
And he also, and either had a home on the property or connected to the property. So people have heard all kinds of crazy stuff in that tap room. Apparently he's very mischievous. He likes to take like the salt and pepper shakers and hide them, and then as soon as you're frantic thinking you've lost your mind, then there's the salt and pepper shaker back where it was before.
Right, very.
Yeah. Kind of playful gent, and then they have one that they call the man in the Stetson hat, which I find it interesting that they call him the man in the Stetson hat, because obviously that kind of connotates that he kind of had money, because, Stetson hats, you're not just going to have one if you're just the ranch hand.
Oh, back in the day, the cowboy days, yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah, like you paid a little cash for a Stetson, and then they have another gentleman who's seen in like a plaid shirt out in the area that used to be the stables before the location of Stables Steakhouse was the stables.
Right.
And they've seen him out there in his plaid shirt, and then there's also the story. Now, as far as this story goes, I've heard 2 versions. There was either a prostitute that was murdered down there when it was a brothel or a speakeasy, but then other stories say that she also had a daughter, and that they were both actually murdered there on site. And people have experienced the prostitute, and people have experienced the little girl as well.
You know what? That seems to be a recurring theme of places that we've been to around here in Terre Haute.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not kidding. May or may not have been a prostitute murdered. May or may not have had a daughter murdered because of the daughter. You know what I mean? With old money around here.
Yeah, and it is interesting, too, because you had so many places that had speakeasies or brothels in the basement, and obviously, being a prostitute at the time was very, very dangerous business. I mean, I'm guessing it probably still is today, but particularly at that time, it was dangerous business. There were mobsters, there were all kinds of people coming into town, and if you crossed the wrong person, I mean, it probably would have been very easy for your life to be ended. And again, we had so many brothels and speakeasies at the time. Like, would anybody really have even, missed some of these
You wouldn't know. Yeah, no idea. It's kind of the same way it is today. You know what I mean?
Right. Nobody's
some people
gonna even notice.
Some people can just disappear and they're gone, and that's it. And it's sad. It really is sad.
It really is. And it breaks my heart. And that's, I think, the great thing, though, about being, ghost investigators, because sometimes you can go out and you can learn a little bit more about a person that might have passed at a location that maybe nobody even knows passed away, because, again, like we just said, there's not really records. People disappeared a lot back then, and so it's kind of interesting to get to communicate with those folks and find out a little bit more about what happened to them.
Right, and maybe doing that might help them to maybe pass on. You never know.
Yeah, get a little more closure and feel like, somebody actually cares
Someone listened.
What their fate was.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Very cool. And, oh man, I don't know anything about the history of Sin City here, but I know there were quite a few mobsters that came through here.
Yeah, we have. I do a tour here in town. I actually do 2 tours. I do the Haunted History Walking Tour, and then I do the Sins and Spirits Walking Tour.
And here we go. Let's go, yeah.
Yeah, here we go. So in the Sins and Spirits Tour, I was very interested to learn that we do have a couple instances when we can confirm that Al Capone was in Terre Haute, and we can confirm that Dillinger was in Terre Haute, and like those are the big names of like Midwestern mobsters, you know, at that point in history. So the fact that they're coming over here, oh yeah, there was some definite crazy stuff going on. And so when I was doing research for the tour, I learned that Al Capone actually, there is a recorded incident of him coming. We've had, of course, the very famous Madam Edith Brown, and she dated a gentleman named Eddie Gosnell. Well, Eddie Gosnell did not do business with Capone, only did business with Bugs Moran. Capone found out. I guess Capone and like 4 or 5 of his guys came up to the Rod and Gun Club out in North Terre Haute, basically came to the door. We're getting ready to have an altercation, or at least try to, you know, change Eddie's mind. And when they got there, the maid, of course, was like, Eddie's not here. He was actually upstairs in the apartment, basically getting ready for a war. But she managed to convince them that Eddie wasn't home, and so we know then from that Al Capone was here, and one can only assume that probably when he left the Rod and Gun Club, rather than go back to Chicago, he probably went and stayed in the old Terre Haute house, and he probably went out to the West End, which was at the time where you would have your casinos and your speakeasies and your brothels, and he probably went and spent some time there. So
now I was going to say, you mentioned the madam there. Now, wasn't she at one of her locations anyway, right there in not Center Point, but 12 Points?
I believe she may have had a seat or a brothel around that area. She moved around several times until choosing her final spot, which is the brothel that kind of everybody knows about, the one that had the Tiffany canopy and the, you know, Oriental rugs and the fine silver. So she did very well, and she treated her ladies very well. And, you know, we've got a lot of history and a lot of stories, and I think we wouldn't necessarily have so much history and so many stories if it weren't for people like Madame Brown that kind of set up the right environment for these mobsters to come down, and these speakeasies and like that sort of stuff.
Yeah, very cool. Just so much amazing stuff that, you know, like I say, I'm not from here. I love learning about the history, and I just want to hear more. So
we were a very sinful city. I mean, we had a lot going on.
Yeah. Well, Sin City, right?
Yeah, like we had a lot going on. Like, and you know that's funny though, because a lot of people actually I've heard say that wasn't actually a name that was given to us.
Yes, it was.
An article came out in like the Stag magazine, I think it was called.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And then somebody labeled us Sin City from there, and we were also we called us like Little Paris or something. Because it was such a nice, regal city before kind of the Sin City era.
Yeah. Wow. Very amazing. Huh. Okay, we're going to run out of time here. Tell me the most... I think I've already asked. Never mind. I'm not going to ask you that again. I think I've already asked you to tell me your... Uh-oh. I hear the doggies again.
I know, I just hit the door with my wrist that time.
Tell me.
Like, I'm coming out here shortly and you're all in trouble.
Tell me.
You're all going to your corners.
I love it. I want to have you back on. I'd love to have you in here with us sometime if you can.
Oh my gosh, that would be so much fun. I would love it.
It would be great. I want to know, you're the number one scared the crap out of you thing in your entire life. Everything you've ever done on your tours, everything.
Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum.
Okay, let's hear about that.
So we were at Trans-Allegheny, as me and my friends. We finally just started our own formal, like, paranormal group, actually, within, like, the last week. But we've been, you know, investigating for years. So we got this great idea. We're going to go to Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. We've been to Waverly Hills. Waverly Hills was great. We're going to go to Trans-Allegheny. It's going to be fabulous. So we drive, you know, the 6 hours over to Weston, West Virginia, and we do their overnight ghost hunt. And we had a little activity here and there, but by the end of the night, I'm starting to get kind of a little disappointed, a little deflated. I'm like, this is Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. Like, anything I've ever seen on the telly, like, this is the place to go.
Hey,
so,
TV, spoiler, it's TV. Anyway,
yeah. So, like, it's supposed to be great, and nothing's really happening. So we get to the end of the evening, and I'm like, guys, like, we came all the way from Indiana. And again, I'm not a proponent of provoking, and I don't necessarily think this was provoking, but I was like, we've come all the way from Indiana. Can't you at least do something to let us know that we didn't, come all this way for nothing? And so we're on one floor. On the floor above us, you just hear all of those cell doors start, like, slamming in unison. So we go one way, other group goes the other way, run up the stairs, thinking we're going to cut off anybody who might be up there kind of messing around. Right. There was nobody there. And I'll tell you what, like, the adrenaline of running up those stairs and not knowing, about what you were going to run into or kind of what you've upset at this point, I was a little nervous, and then we got up there, and I was like, okay, first, there's nothing. But how do you explain that? Like, all those doors slamming, especially after I'm like, okay, do something. Well, apparently they took me seriously.
Right.
But yeah, that definitely scared me.
Yeah, that I can't. From our group, I'm the skeptic, and I kind of call bull on a lot of things. I don't know. I mean, doors slamming in at a location that you paid $200 or $300 to go to, they might be just, giving you a little... Here.
Right, and I've thought about that before. I'm like, they've got this stuff on, like, an automatic thing, like, but again, it was just the whole fact of it happened right when I said that. We were on the floor below, and like I said, we ran up both staircases, and there was nobody there. And even if it wasn't real paranormal activity, like, kudos to the folks at Trans-Allegheny, because they gave my
scared the crap out of you, yeah. That's what,
so, like, kudos to them.
That's what, Dustin's not here, like I said earlier when we talked. That's what he and I used to, since 2002, we worked haunted houses, scared the crap out of everybody. We love that. It's a great thing, but...
Oh, it's one of my favorite things to do. I love to scare people. I have a friend who does, like, a home haunt, and I just love to go through there and watch people scream. And then I'll go to regular haunted houses and, like, watch people scream. And they're like, do you get any joy out of this? Or, like, do you get scared at all? And I'm like, no, but I really like to see people get freaked out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's fun. People watch them.
It's good for your health.
It is. That's great. It's a good time. Okay. Okay. Now, we're gonna have to leave now. I want you to tell everybody where they can find your book, because it's awesome. I like it. I love it.
Well, thank you. Mm-hmm. You can get my book at Barnes & Noble, Amazon, thehistorypress.com. You can also get it if you're a local to Terre Haute. You can get it at Basler's Market. Or if you're feeling a little bit like learning about the history of Terre Haute, I suggest you go over to the newly opened Vigo County Historical Society.
Absolutely,
and they actually sell my book there. You can take the tour, and best part, you can see Stiffy Green.
There you go. Now, who's Stiffy Green?
Who doesn't want to see Stiffy Green?
Who's Stiffy Green?
Oh, Stiffy Green. He is actually... See, you keep me talking. Like,
I know, I'm sorry. I'm having a good time with you. I'm having a good time with you.
I know, it's fun. It's fabulous. But Stiffy Green is our most famous haunt, or we believe haunt, and I say that because there's a lot of people who will debate whether or not he was a real dog, whether or not, the whole history of Stiffy Green. But basically, he's this cute, adorable little concrete bulldog. He lives in a small-scale version of what would have been his owner's mausoleum out at Highland Lawn Cemetery.
Right.
And as it goes, his owner, John Hynell, he was a local florist. Unfortunately, he passed away in the 1920s, and when he did, Stiffy was really upset. So they bury Mr. Hynell in his mausoleum, and they notice all of a sudden, the family, that Stiffy Green just keeps, disappearing and going out to that mausoleum. So, long story short, the graveyard staff out there decide to start tending to the little guy. They feed him. They put a little doghouse up for him, the whole thing. This goes on for a while, and then unfortunately Stiffy Green passes away. Now, when he does, that's kind of when he becomes, the big myth that he is around Terre Haute. People started going out because they put a stuffed Stiffy Green in the mausoleum. Teenagers started going out, shining flashlights in there, kind of, trying to get a good scare. But eventually, in the 80s, vandals, like we talked about in the beginning of the conversation,
always
came out there. Yeah, they ruin it for everybody.
Yes.
So any of you out there who are vandals, don't do it. We don't like it.
Right.
They came out there and they shot a gun into the mausoleum.
Oh.
Of course, yeah, and shot little Stiffy in the eye. So
that's why
the
it's
Vigo
missing.
County Historical Society decided that they would become like the pet parents of little Stiffy Green, and so they brought him to the mausoleum, and he's there now, or they brought him to the museum and put him in the mausoleum, and he's there now, and you can actually go visit him. But the thing is, as I said in the beginning of the story, he was stuffed. Now, if you look to the mausoleum, you're going to see that you're looking at like a little concrete dog.
Right.
Clearly not stuffed. So the folks at the Historical Society say, he never was a real dog. He was just maybe a lawn ornament that Mr. Heinel really liked or something of that nature. But
that's what I've heard. Yeah. That's
and that's the prevailing tale. But then you've got other folks just kind of randomly throughout history, gentlemen that worked with my stepdad back in the day at Terre Haute Monument, who'd been a manager there for a long time, said, no. Stiffy Green was a stuffed dog, but somebody kidnapped the original stuffed dog. Yeah, and then they put in the concrete version as kind of a placeholder.
Well, how did they get into the gates?
Highland Lawn?
Yeah. No, the mausoleum itself.
I don't know if they kind of jimmied the lock or if this was, in the 1920s. I don't know how well they locked up mausoleums back then. Or if they even did. One would assume they would, but I don't know. But that's the story that comes from Terre Haute Monument. And then there's another gentleman, a book called Spooky Indiana, which I'm a huge fan of. And he, one of the stories that he recites in there is about a kid who actually knew John Heinel and knew Stiffy Green, and said that when he went to the cemetery to pay his respects to Stiffy Green, he actually saw the ghostly version of Stiffy Green and John Heinel at the cemetery. So, I guess
that's very cool.
Kind of whichever story you believe.
Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, what I always heard was it was a concrete dog that he liked for some reason when he would sit on his porch in his chair, rocking chair. Yeah, he liked it. So when he passed,
well, and that makes sense. He was a florist. He was probably had access to the really cool kind of like lawn statues.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's been times. Yeah, I've been to been to the flower shop here a few years ago, and they had Stiffy in there.
Well, and that's what my dad keeps telling me. He was like, "Why don't you just Google and find you your own Stiffy Green?" And I'm like, that's a brilliantly terrible idea, but I haven't done it yet. So who knows? Maybe one of these years, like I'm going to be posting pictures online. I'm going to be like, "It's my Stiffy Green."
No, but it was the real one. I mean, the owners of the floral shop you were talking about, they had that statue in there for a moment, and they took a photo of it in the floral shop. That's kind of cool. That's been a long time ago.
I haven't been by there in years.
It's been a long time ago. I don't know if it's still there or not. It may be. I'm sure it is. I mean, it's been here forever,
I'm
right?
not even sure. They might have turned it into like a restaurant or something, the old floral shop. I haven't been that way in so long. Well, I mean, I have, but I haven't paid attention. One of those things.
Going down Poplar, right?
Yeah, and I don't know if, I think it might be a restaurant now, but I'm not sure.
I don't either.
So
That's amazing.
I'll have to look next time now that I have reason to pay attention instead of just look straight as I drive down Poplar.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm sorry to keep you this long. One more thing.
Oh, no, you're fine. I enjoyed it.
One more thing. What's the deal with this Poplar house? That thing looks
The
like
Preston House?
it should be just tore down. What's going on with that thing? And no one's taking care of it. It's huge.
And now, which house is that? The Poplar House.
I think it's the Poplar House. It's you go down Poplar,
Mm-hmm.
and there's this big, huge white. Could be a very beautiful home. No one's taking care of, and there's a sign right in front of it. I think it says Poplar House. I'm not sure what it says.
Oh, I have seen that. And, I really don't know much about that, but I really wish they would do something with it. It's kind of the same thing with the
What is it?
mansion out in Allendale.
Yeah.
I wish somebody would do something with that as well, because both of those homes probably have some history, might have some old inhabitants that are still around, and it would just be interesting to see them do something cool with that. Now, I know when you speak of old houses that need renovating here in Terre Haute, the Old Historical Society over on 6th and Swan, I think-ish, has actually is going to be turned into a bed and breakfast, and I know that they've got a couple of ghosts in there.
Oh,
so if
cool.
you want to come to Terre Haute, go stay somewhere that's a little haunted. That's probably going to be a nice place.
There you go, guys. There you go, guys. That is where, though, I've driven by that place year after year, and I know you know this thing about the cemetery. It's, I think one of the streets, it's Poplar and Walnut or something like that. It's laid on top of a cemetery, right?
I've heard 6th in Ohio.
6th in Ohio,
I've
that's
heard.
it, yeah. I'm having trouble. I can't remember anything anymore. I'm getting old.
I have those moments too. I'm like, we're just going to call it like early onset dementia.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, you're right, man. I'm gone.
But yeah, no, that area there used to be a cemetery, and the funny thing about that is that some of those graves from 6th and Ohio would have been then moved to Indian Orchard over on 1st Street, and then when the Erie Canal came through and the different, American Can Company and all of that stuff were done at the old Indian Orchard site, then some of those people had to be moved another time to go to Woodlawn Cemetery. So they've moved some of those graves several times.
But were they moved, or were just the headstones moved?
Nah, see, that's the interesting thing. At the time, they claimed that the bodies themselves were moved, but then when they went to go put in those riverfront lofts, they did end up finding, a whole coffin, and they found, some bones of a young child that were apparently, they claim, in this row that had just been kind of missed when they moved the graves. But then one has to wonder, did they miss them, or did they just move the tombstones and kind of go about their business? I don't know.
Very cool. All right, I'm gonna let you go now.
All right. Well, I appreciate your time, and thank you very much.
I appreciate your time, and we want to have you back, if you will. I'd love to have you back in here so we can sit and look at each other and talk. It'll be great.
Absolutely. Anytime. Let me know when and what time, and I will be there.
Okay, so once again, Ashley Hood, TelltaleTours.com, right here in Terre Haute. All kinds of haunted places. You guys will love this. Any time of year, right?
All the way, it's April to October, sometimes November, if we don't have the Arctic winter come in super, super early in Indiana.
Okay, yeah, and there's so much more that I didn't ask her about. I know about, like, something at ISU and different places around here. You guys...
Oh, yeah, go play at Dreiser Hall. If you're a student at ISU, like I'm just saying right now, go play at Dreiser Hall. Tell Kara and Ashley from the Tours sent you. She's a really fun little entity.
There you go. All right, guys. Well, thank you, Ashley, and I appreciate you, and we will talk to you again.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night.
This is Rick McCullum of the Hollywood Ghost Hunters, and you're listening to The Dead Zone.
Dead Zone WDZRDB Worldwide.
Stop for the beast. This is the Dead Zone Paranormal Radio Show.
Thanks for listening.